Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. We have definitely turned down work. I don't really look at it as turning the work down. When a car comes in that is like in such bad condition, we try to work with the customer, and a lot of times when they come in, they're really not in tune with everything that's involved in restoring a car and the costs that come along with that. So, obviously when a customer brings us a project that is like in really bad condition and we know it's going to take a lot to restore it, we try to educate them primarily on everything that's going to be required to restore that car, and try to let them kind of see with information and education on what it's going to take and the costs involved in those steps to get it done. And then that way, typically the owner kind of makes their own conclusion. If anything can be restored. I mean, if I get a car in here that still has the VIN tags and everything on it, depending on the model of the car, we can build a whole new car around, the customer's VIN number. As long as we have the original car, we can build a car around it. It's just a lot of times whether or not that's cost effective, and does it fit into a realistic budget for what that customer can afford to do. If they don't have sentimental attachments to that project or to that car, then sometimes it might be better to unload that project and find one in better condition, maybe that they could still build to the way they want it, but maybe just not require as much work. But to answer the question, have we turned cars down? It's been kind of a mutual agreement between us and the customer when that happens, because it's just not the right project for them.
So it's more about the customer and what their budget is more than
their budget, and really if they have a sentimental attachment to that project. Maybe it was their dad's or their grandfather's or somebody that has passed away, and they have to have that car restored. That's not a problem. We can do that. But, we want the customer to be fully aware of what they're getting into and the costs involved in some of that before they get started on their project, because there's nothing worse than getting half into a project and then you realize, hey, this is more than I can afford, or just it's way beyond. It's a bigger project than what I imagined. And then having to stop on the project. And so we really make a valid effort to not get into that situation with a customer. I think it's more fair for the customer if they're informed. Well, we try to stick with the classic American muscle cars, street rods, trucks, and so forth. Some of the kit cars will do a lot of work to help a customer through their project. But the biggest thing is it's very important, well, for a business standpoint and a profit standpoint, that the car be one that a lot of parts are available for, and that helps keep the cost down on a lot of these projects. If it's a car, say like a guy, comes in with like a 79 Cadillac Coupe de Ville and wants it restored. Well, it's a great car, don't get me wrong, and they're beautiful when they're restored. But the market value of the car is one aspect. The how attached the owner is to that project. Was it his grandfather or his father's car that he's trying to restore? Where you run into extreme costs on cars like that, is being able to find parts for the cars, because there's that age where they started reproducing a lot of or not reproducing, but producing a lot of the components and parts in either a urethane or a plastic or something that nowadays manufacturers may not be reproducing at this time. Okay, Cadillacs were real bad about their bumper filler panels from where they, because they had the 5-mile-an-hour crash bumpers on them. Well, the urethane filler panels that go around and that complete the body out to the bumper, is nobody makes them, and if they did, sometimes they're going to be in maybe a cheap plastic or something that doesn't fit, or maybe even reproduce it in a fiberglass. Fiberglass is going to be a little better because we can at least reconfigure it to make it fit better. But if it's urethane or plastic or something like that, you're pretty much done with whatever comes out of the box. And there's just not a lot of people making the stuff for, that series of car, whether it be Camaros or Mustangs or or Cadillacs or Oldsmobiles or Cutlasses, or we get people all the time with the Cutlass, Monte Carlo, and the Buicks in that era, the 79 to 85 era. There's just no part to be able to build those cars at a reasonable price. So time is spent on the internet and salvage yards and everywhere trying to locate, replacement parts that in a lot of times are in as bad a condition as the ones you're taking off the car because they're the same age, so. But yeah, that's always a problem.
So it's also just a factor of the parts that we take in, like whether there's parts available for the customer wants or needs.
Right.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sure. Without a doubt. And that's all part of the education process too. You got to make that customer aware of what it's going to take to do their particular vehicles. Obviously, your mid 60s and late 60s, early 70s cars, American muscle cars and performance vehicles at that time are obviously going to be a lot more plentiful because those are the ones that everybody wants and rebuilds right now. As time changes and the generation of people that are looking back to restore their cars, well, obviously it's going to continue to progress. All the guys that want the early Mustangs restored are going to slowly die off, and it's going to be the 78, 79, 80 Mustangs and whatnot that are going to take over because that generation is the one that's going to want those restored. Right now, the Fox body Mustangs are really starting to come into play. The Gen 2 and Gen 3 Camaros are really kind of starting to come into their own. So we're starting to see a lot more, of those projects. We just got in a 71 RSSS that is in really, really bad shape. But the gentleman has owned it since high school, and so he's very attached to the car. Fortunately, all the parts for that car are available. We can build one out of the catalog, essentially. So that's going to be a pretty big project.
And you were talking about having to search junkyards for parts. That's not something we do, right?
No, we don't physically go out and search, but nowadays with the internet, actually there are some classic car salvage yards and things like that do post up their stuff online, and then the rest of it is just phone calls and networking to try to find stuff. Yeah, oh my gosh, if we had to drive around, just trying to find stuff in the salvage yards. The problem is a lot of your mainstream salvage yards don't keep those early model vehicles in their inventory. They've already been crushed and shredded and recycled and are gone. Typically a salvage yard is going to be about a 10-year, deal. They're turning their inventory and keeping the more current models in their yards, because that's what the biggest demand is. So that's why it's so hard to find some of those, late 70s and on up, vehicles.
What's the newest car we've ever worked on? The most recent car we worked on? We saw a couple. We have a Volkswagen in here that's like.
Yeah, that's an '88, and that's kind of what I was referring to on some of the Fox body cars. We're getting a little influx on those, and they've got a pretty good aftermarket base on those cars. Some of the Camaros are still a little bit behind on some of the products, but they are getting into those eras and starting to bring them back. The thing about that Fox body, though, is that body style, started back, in the early 80s, and then continued on up, through the 80s. So certain parts, are available that cross over from year to year on up into the, some of the last years that they made. It's just, you may have some specific trim pieces that are weather strippings and things that are kind of a low volume part, may be a little late coming out, but yeah, they're getting better and better. Yeah. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed today's Shop Talk. We'll try to get some more episodes out to you, and I really appreciate you tuning in. Let us know if there's any subjects or anything like that, or if you have some classic car questions you'd like for us to answer. We'd love to address those for you. Other than that, subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit like on all our videos, and that way you'll get the updates as we keep posting them out. So I appreciate it. You guys tune back in. Thank you.